Support for this show comes from Lead Quizzes. Lead Quizzes helps you easily set up high-converting quizzes to capture and qualify leads for your business. Visit leadquizzes.com/podcast to get a 14-day free trial today.
There was even a time where a few years into my business when the economy crashed, this is very embarrassing to say, but I applied for food stamps. I filled out the application and I was on the line for the food stamp line. And I looked around and I saw homeless people and people in really tough situations. I'm like, damn, I'm a guy in my early 20s, well-educated, I have energy, and I'm like on this line. This is horrible. What the hell am I doing here?
From Lead Quizzes, it's Journey to Seven Figures, a show about entrepreneurs and the stories behind how they grew their business to 7 figures and beyond. We cover the good, the bad, and the ugly, and the lessons they learned along the way. I'm Jeremy Ellens, and this is episode number 5. On today's show, I interview my friend AJ Mihrzad. AJ shares his experience starting out as a struggling personal trainer, his not one but 2 near-death experiences, and the steps he took to turn that into a 7-figure business. This is one of my favorite episodes so far, and is jam-packed with strategies to grow your business. Let's jump in. So welcome back to Journey to 7 Figures. I'm really excited to introduce you guys today to AJ Mihrzad. He's got an amazing business, online super coach. He did $1.2 million in sales, 90% profit. He's a good friend of mine. I'm really excited to have him on so he can share his lessons with you. Welcome, AJ.
Hey, thank you, Jeremy. So excited to be here, buddy.
Yeah, awesome. All right. So online super coach, what you do with that is basically you're training personal trainers how to take their business online and be more scalable than just working in the one-to-one format in the gym, right?
Yeah, I would say over the years, I've evolved quite a bit. I got about 70% fitness professionals. Then the other 30% are like life coaches, dating coaches, sex coaches. It's the same type of systems for marketing, sales, and service, and have now opened up to various coaching and services.
Well, very cool. So I'm really excited to talk about this. You hit $1 million in this business. You hit $1 million in your own personal training business, but it all went back towards when you were personal training offline. So let's kind of take it back to there and tell me how you decided to get into being an entrepreneur and running your own business.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So it all started with my challenge with obesity. I was pretty overweight most of my life. And in my early 20s, I had a enough is enough moment. And that's when I decided to do whatever it takes to lose the weight. At my heaviest, I was 60 pounds overweight. I had it all. Chipmunk cheeks, man boobs, big old belly. And I was so insecure with myself, with my body. And I was just in a lot of pain. I was in a place where I wasn't comfortable in my own skin. I started having lower back pain. And I felt like crap in my early 20s. And that's where I decided, you know what? I got to really go full force with this fitness thing. Because I was going through a rough period at the time. I was partying a lot, doing a lot of drugs, drinking. And I had this horrible experience where I partied too hard and I overdosed, ended up in the emergency room. And that's when I said, you know what? This life of overeating, over drinking, and taking drugs is going to kill me if I don't stop. So that's when I said, I'm going to get really healthy and focus on my fitness. And in that first year, I did everything in my power to lose those 60 pounds. And I don't know what the hell I was doing. I was going to the gym, running on the treadmill for 2 hours a day, eating lettuce and turkey breasts. And over a year's time, I was able to lose the 60 pounds, but I was what they call skinny fat. So I lost a lot of the muscle. I was skinny, but I really didn't have the greatest body composition. So at the time I was in college and I decided to change my major to exercise science and nutrition. And I learned how to properly eat and train, learn the science behind fitness. And I opened up my personal training business. So that was really my first dive into entrepreneurship. And at first I was just sharing my own weight loss story. A lot of people in the gym saw my weight loss. They're like, hey, can you train me? Can you show me what you did? And I started doing that. That started really falling into place. And I started to build clientele just based off word of mouth and referrals. However, I didn't have any type of marketing knowledge or a website. Then in the time of the recession, 2008, 2007, my business started going downhill because all the clients that I had, they just fell by the wayside. And that's when I got nervous. I said, you know what? I don't want to go back to having a 9-to-5. I love this entrepreneurship. So I really have to learn what to do. And then a friend of mine named Gabby, he introduced me to direct response marketing. And once I found that out, my whole life changed because I now learn how to market on the internet in person and how to make my marketing dollars work for me. I'm sure all the listeners on the line are familiar with direct response marketing. I'm curious, what is your take on direct response?
So yes, I think it's super important to be able to track your marketing for sure. So I think those are awesome. AJ, I want to back up a little bit. So you said you went to college, you studied eating, training, nutrition, that kind of thing. And then you started getting clients like in the gym. They just saw you and like what you're doing. How long did it take before that was like a full-time gig for you?
So I would say from when I lost the weight, a few years was like a part-time thing for me. And at the time I had a 9-to-5 job, and it was like being in a place where I was scared to pursue my passion full time. You know, it was like, man, I got this 9-to-5 job. I had these great benefits, and I had the ability to have this structure in my medical bills and my retirement, all that stuff. And then what ended up happening was I got really into fitness, and I started to develop my own supplements. And I made a grave mistake one day. Prior to going to the gym, I took this supplement at the wrong dose, meaning I had this little pre-workout drink that I would take before the gym all the time. And instead of taking the pre-workout drink, I took this entire bottle of this powerful stimulant called yohimbine HCl. It was actually 3,000 times the recommended dosage. So let's say if each dose is like 1 cup of coffee, so I, by mistake, took the equivalent of 3,000 cups of coffee at once.
Wow.
And the moment I drank it, and I was an idiot at the time because I put the same pure powder in the same bottle as a pre-workout, and I didn't label them. I was very careless. So instead of putting the pre-workout, I put the entire bottle of the pure supplement. Moments after I drank it, I knew I made a grave mistake. And that's when I knew, holy cow, my life was in jeopardy. It was a horrible experience. I would go into the store, but it would take up the whole podcast. But from that point, I ended up going to the ER, and the doctors put me into a coma, a medically induced coma, and my heart stopped. It was actually pronounced dead in front of my whole family, and they were actually able to revive me, and I was in a coma for about 6 days. And from that point on, it was like, yikes. I woke up. Thankfully, I got a second lease on life. I put my family, friends, and loved ones through hell, and I said, you know what? I need to make a big change, and I need to really focus on my dreams and live life in a better way. At the time, I was still kind of partying, hanging out with toxic people, and I wasn't really that committed to my business. But after coming out of the hospital, that near-death experience, I decided to quit my 9-to-5 job and go full force in entrepreneurship. This was in 2007. So once I quit, then I had to get serious. And by getting serious, I had to learn marketing.
That's quite the amazing story, AJ.
Thank you.
How much revenue were you making at the time when you quit the full-time job?
I had a simple goal at the time. I said, you know what? If I make $3,000 a month, I'll be so happy. I'll be set for life. I can pay all my bills and live a happy life. So that was the initial goal, $3,000 a month. And then once you learn marketing, you learn how to attract leads and you learn how to scale. Then very quickly, it started growing from that point on.
Is that what you were at when you quit, or that was just like, that was the aspirational goal?
That was like the aspirational goal for me to pull this business full time,
Yeah.
You know, because at the time, that's all I needed to pay my bills.
So you're just kind of like, you weren't quite there yet, but you're like, screw it, I got to figure this out.
Yes. Because I said, you know, if I make $3,000 a month from personal training alone, then I don't have to work a 9-to-5 anymore.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. So let's go into your story about like learning marketing and how you started transforming this. Like you said, you started getting like referrals, and then you started losing customers in 2008. You needed to figure out a way, how can I replace those customers?
Yes. So going off my own, very quickly, when I put all my focus on just the personal training and getting results from my clients, I was able to get that $3,000 a month, and I was very happy, and it was happening organically without much effort. People were referring people, and things are going great. And then in 2008, the economy took a crash, and that simple $3,000 a month that paid all my bills, that was wiped away. I think it was cut in half. I was making like $1,500 a month, and I was like, oh my God, I am screwed. Why did I start this business? I don't know what I'm doing. My biggest fear was going back to my 9-to-5 job and, you know, having to put my head down and go back to work. So then I got really desperate, and I started to ask for help. And I had a friend at the time, his name is Gabby, and he actually started a boot camp. And we were both doing personal training, and then he started doing group training. And I was like, how the hell do you transition from one-on-one to group? And how do you get so many clients to even have a boot camp? You know, if people don't know, boot camp is like one-to-many training, 20, 30 clients at a time. So he said, man, you need to study direct response marketing. That's like the holy grail. If you understand how to utilize that, you can get more clients, you can grow your business, and really start doing a more of a scalable approach. So then I just went on Google and I just wrote direct response marketing. And there was so much stuff that came up, a lot of scientific stuff. And the one guy he said you have to study was Dan Kennedy. So I said, this guy, Dan Kennedy, man, I need to learn everything that he has. So I just went on Amazon. I ordered as many Dan Kennedy books as possible. And he told me to start with the No BS series. And I started reading those books, and those books changed my life. I learned marketing from a really simple and powerful point of view. And I learned how many mistakes I was making, devaluing myself. And I was coming off very needy and scarce. And I started to understand that, wow, if I create a website, I could attract clients. I learned search engine optimization, but also how to utilize words and use those words to attract clients. And upon discovering the world of direct response marketing and studying from the greats, copywriters, Dan Kennedy, eventually Frank Kern, and who else at the time, Eben Pagan, those guys opened up my eyes to a world of possibilities. Though very quickly, my personal trading business went from suffering, making a little over $1,000 a month to then scaling up to $6,000, $7,000, $8,000 a month. And I learned that, wow, I'm making six figures just by learning direct response marketing. And I started to do some of my private training. Instead of training one client at a time for $60 an hour, I then started taking on 3-4 clients at a time, and my income just started blowing up.
Okay, awesome. So let's talk about that. So how did you initially start getting some of these people with the direct response marketing that you learned? Did you start running ads, or were you getting it, like you said, through SEO and search traffic?
Oh, yeah. So I basically discovered this guy named Chris McCombs, and he is kind of like the Dan Kennedy of the fitness marketing world. And at the time, I was reading his blog, and he had a lot of great information. He essentially took direct response marketing practices and put him into the fitness industry. And I think he was actually mentored by Dan Kennedy. So a lot of stuff I was reading the books, he was teaching us from a fitness point of view. And I remember at the time, I reached out to him to get some coaching because I never hired a coach. At the time, I was watching videos on the internet and I was buying information products and reading books. But I knew, like, if I had a coach, that would be kind of like me learning in a deeper way and also investing in myself. And at the time, he said, to coach with me, it's going to cost you $5,000. And I was like, holy cow, that's a lot of money. I never spent it on a coach, but I knew that, okay, I'm reading books and I'm going to seminars, I'm doing all this stuff. Maybe if I take a risk and hire a coach, I'll see where it goes. Worst case scenario, I lose the $5,000. Best case scenario, I could take my business past 6 figures. So then I hired him, and it was like the best decision I ever made. I don't think he does any coaching anymore, but at the time he was like the go-to guy in the fitness industry. And I remember paying him that $5,000, and we had our first call, and he was like, AJ, you're a smart guy, but you study way too much. You are in analysis paralysis. You know way too much about the internet and marketing that you're not taking enough action. Screw everything you know, just do these 3 things. And once you do these 3 things, come back to me. So I said, Chris, whatever you say I'm going to do, and I don't want to look like an idiot and lose my $5,000. So he was like my savior at the time. I was like, whatever this guy says, I'm going to do. And I was like so nervous and scared. But I remember every week we had a call, and he would give me these 3 steps, and I would do those 3 steps. And then very quickly, the stuff that he was teaching me was actually working. I was getting results with it. And within a few weeks' time, I made my $5,000 back. And I was like, whoa, this is it. That's when I realized the power of coaching. That's when I realized that in order for me to grow, I need accountability, I need simplicity, and just someone breathing over my neck. Because I'm the type of guy who's very big on integrity. I love follow through. In fact, my Colby follow through is my highest. So if someone tells me to do something, it's done. And I realized if I have a coach in my business and my mind, coaching really works well for me. So that was like my unfair advantage over other people. If I just pay someone, they tell me what to do, I work a lot better. And since then, I've hired multiple coaches, and we've both been in high-level masterminds together, the power of investing in oneself. But I found that the moment I hired him, that's when I really was able to scale my business.
Okay, awesome. So I think there's a few things to highlight here. I think one is like you figure out the difference between like working with people one-on-one to going to 3 to 4 clients. So they probably didn't take you any extra effort except for maybe getting a couple more people in, but it was your thinking around how can I scale and make myself more skilled, right?
Yeah. Because a great lesson there, and I learned for the first time in my life, the power of certainty, because when you're the expert or the authority and you say that this is the way it's going to be, it'll be like that. Because in a sense, the coach gave me permission to ask for what I wanted because I was such a wuss. I kind of knew that, okay, if I work with groups, I'll make more money and I'll scale my time. But I was such a wuss in asking for it. But I had to pay this guy $5,000 to give me permission to ask for it, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Awesome. So I think That's a great point. I think another great point here is like you talked about really investing in education and coaches, and you talked about your Colby score. So understanding like, what are your personality strengths, which you're naturally like better at, and being able to understand that and having the awareness of it. So, your follow through. If I get a coach that's really going to help you, I think that's something it's smart for people to know. So if you haven't taken the Colby test, definitely take it. If nothing else, just to understand better who you are. So I think that's a great point. I would love to hear, like, AJ, what are some of those like first three things? Was it three things, or was it just three things and then here's more three things? Like, what did he have you work on that started helping you like attract clients when you were feeling like, I can't do it, 2008, like all these people dried up?
Yeah. I mean, his advice was like really simple, and it's kind of stuff that I probably could have done myself, but I was too much of a wuss to do. Number one was set a date where you're going to tell all your clients that you're now doing group training, And he really didn't give me like a strategy. He just said, on this day, you're doing group training and you got to figure out how to tell them. I remember like staying up at night, because that was the day of my clients. I'm like, oh my God, what if they reject me? What if they say no? What if they trying to, take advantage of us? And that was one thing. Number two, he would say, just literally go through your phone and call up friends, old clients, and people you've worked with, or even people that were interested, and just make them an offer. Tell them about your new program, your new transformation program. And that was the second thing. That's kind of like stuff that I needed a coach to tell me to do, because I'm not going to go through my phone and call up people, but I didn't want to let this guy down. And the third thing was really simple. It was, instead of selling sessions, sell the result. So at the time I was doing $60 per session. So he taught me how to sell 3 to 6 month transformations, so no longer was that I'm going to sell 10 sessions, because when I'm selling sessions and people don't show up, it's literally trading time for money. Instead, I took all my skills and I made a package. So I made a 3-month package and a 6-month package. And it was super simple. You do either a paid in full or monthly billing. And that alone allowed me to make so much more money. But also, if someone went on vacation or if they didn't show up, they bought the package and they weren't paying me for the session. So automatically my value just blew up.
Yeah. And I think you started adding some predictability and some like recurring revenue in for the people paying monthly. And so that's definitely a huge thing versus like, you're hoping that they show up, or if they get sick, or if they reschedule, you don't have that consistency.
The sessions, people aren't that excited about exercise, especially if they hire a personal trainer. So they could take 10 sessions and spread that out over a year. Or at the same time, look at it like, okay, I have 5 sessions with you, what have you. And at the same time, like, it devalues me because they only see per hour. But I started to sell them the result, because that's what everyone wants, right? Everyone wants a result. So instead of looking at me at this technician who's trading time for money, I'm a magician who gets this amazing result for them.
Awesome. So that helped you get to like the 6-figure mark. How long did that take you, like when you started doing this full time?
So before I worked with Chris, I was having like a month of 10K, and then a month of like 6K and 7K. I was a bit inconsistent. And then all of a sudden, implementing the stuff that he taught me, I went very quickly from barely making 6 figures to multiple 6 figures, because the simplicity of selling the result, having more recurring revenue, at the same time being able to raise my prices. Instead of working with, let's say, 5 or 6 clients per day, I was working with like, 50, 60 clients per day. In a very short amount of time, my business blew up. But at the same time, learning search engine optimization, direct response marketing. He taught me how to use Google Ads at the time. And I was like, holy cow, like I didn't have an issue getting clients. In fact, it allowed me to now bring on other trainers to scale my business. So it was the greatest breakthrough of my business ever.
Okay. So you started finding, like, the first you just hit like whoever you could talk to, like you went and hit them with an offer, whoever's in your phone. And then you started doing SEO and AdWords. So you started going out, trying to find traffic. What were you doing to get them to either sign up for something or opt in? Like, what kind of compelling offer were you putting in front of people?
Yeah, absolutely. So the big thing I learned about was, not just direct response marketing, but the power of sales. And prior to that, when I was selling sessions, I was having people come in person and selling them one-to-one, right? And it's very effective, of course, if a person gets off their ass and comes to your gym and they're physically there, it's like a 90% buy rate, right? You have to really screw it up for them not to buy. He taught me how to sell over the phone, which was a game changer. So I was able to make a compelling offer over the phone, and it would take their credit card. And that, was the biggest shift for me, because then I learned the power of not being the technician. I remember at the time he recommended a book, The E-Myth, because prior to hiring him, I did everything. I wore all the different hats. I was a technician. I was the marketer. I was a sales guy. And then from that point on, I hired a team in India to do my SEO. And I hired another trainer to take on the clients. I started doing the sales calls myself, and then I outsourced that. So then I was taking on more of an entrepreneurial role. And I think the big distinction was in the beginning, I was a personal trainer who marketed himself. He taught me how to be a marketer who sold personal training.
That's a huge difference. So you started doing like some of this SEO and the AdWords, but you said you focus on like the sales. So like once you get in front of someone, you have to close them. So what were you like studying, or what really helped you the most in being able to sell over the phone?
The biggest thing was reading sales books. A great book at the time, an old school book, The Ultimate Sales Machine by Chet Holmes. Holy cow, that book changed my mindset on sales and what's possible, learning about objections. And another classic book, How to Raise Yourself from Failure to Success in Selling. There's so many of these old school sale books that were like gold to me at the time, because prior to that, I wasn't really using any type of the strategies. Someone would ask for the price, I would tell them immediately or tell them to come in person and then tell them. Then I was learning how to ask questions. I had to dig for the pain, get to the why. The 5 whys is a great strategy, and you can use this for a conversation or a sales call. And someone would say, I want to lose weight. Why do you want to lose weight? Well, I need to really lose 20 pounds to be happy. Why do you need to lose 20 pounds? Well, I feel that my husband is not giving me attention. Oh, why do you feel your husband's not giving you attention? I see him looking at other women when we're out in public. Why does that bother you? Well, we haven't had sex in 6 months, and I feel like my husband's going to cheat on me because he did it 10 years ago when we were first dating, and I'm out of shape. I don't feel comfortable. Oh, okay. All right, ma'am. Now we know why we're having this conversation. Now that we know the root problem, here's a solution. So I learned that most people that want to buy, unless you get to the core reason, that deep, dark pain, they're not going to take action. So you have to really put them in the point of realizing the severity of the problem. So like these little distinctions, the 5 whys and learning how to ask compelling questions, changed the game for me.
Yeah, that's huge. So then you go through this consultative process, you present your solution. So it's one of these like 3 to 6 month packages. Curious, how much were you selling those 3 to 6 month packages for again? Do you remember?
Training price range really in the entire nation. And for me, I believe the highest package that I have is $900 for a group training package.
Okay, awesome. So 900. So you're presenting these solutions. I love what you said about like going out and reading a bunch of sales books. That's how I learned how to sell as well. As I went and got like 10 sales books, read everything I could, whether it was books or courses. It helps a lot.
You are definitely a sales wizard. So we always exchange sales information, and you recommend me some good books. But I would love to know, I'm sure the listeners want to know too, what would you say is your number one sales Bible?
There's a lot that are really good. I think the one that impacted me the most at the beginning was actually a course by Jordan Belfort. So the guy is known for The Wolf of Wall Street, but he had a straight line selling course that he went through. I know he came out with a book recently. I haven't read it, but that was really like helpful for me. And the reason why is because number one, it said, get to know as quickly as possible. So I think not being in sales first, you're so afraid of hearing no that like a lot of times you don't even ask. But he teaches you, go through a consultative process like you talked about, ask questions, go into your presentation like quick, like a couple minutes, and then make the offer and the ask. And then when you get no, then you just have prepared like buyer objections to overcome it. So
yes,
I thought that training was awesome.
I went through it twice.
Yeah.
That is the tonality and being sharp as a tack.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So his was great. Did you make any kind of like compelling offer when you were pitching those? Was that a big part of like your sales process?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Drop down pricing, let's say the highest program was $900 a month. And I think it was like, yeah, it's $1,200. But if you sign up right now over the phone, you get a discount. Action taker discount. It is only $900. You save $300 if you make a decision right now, So obviously most times people say yes, but for the times they didn't, like you said, the sale starts with a no. And in the past I was a wuss. I don't have the money. Let me talk to my husband. I need time to think about it. I'm like, okay, get back to me when you're ready.
Yeah.
But then I learned the power of objections and how to resolve them over the phone.
Okay, so that's super powerful. We'll get back to the show in a minute, but first a quick thanks to our sponsor, Lead Quizzes. If you want to grow your business to 7 figures and beyond, you must learn how to generate leads predictably. When I first started my business, lead generation felt like riding a roller coaster. I would have huge sales months and then months with nothing. This happened because I relied solely on referrals and networking to grow my business. Predicting growth and investing in the future were frightening because I didn't have control over my lead generation. That was before we created lead quizzes. Now I predictably generate leads in my sleep and have stopped worrying about where the next sale will come from. Top marketers like Neil Patel and Lewis House have used lead quizzes to increase their lead capture by up to 500%. Think about it. Quizzes are fun, engaging, and you can offer personalized feedback in exchange for your quiz taker's contact information. Lead Quizzes is a software that allows you to set up high-converting quizzes quickly without having to hire an expensive programmer. In fact, our users have generated over 3 million leads for their businesses. Take control of your lead generation today and start your 14-day free trial by going to leadquizzes.com/podcast. I love this. So you started getting traffic, you started getting them on phone calls and selling them, and then you started filling up. So you needed to hire someone to train these people. Was that difficult for you? How did you first train and get someone in place where you could trust and let them run, these group programs?
Absolutely. It was very difficult, because for me, I'm a perfectionist and everything I do, I learned how to do it myself and to learn how to do very efficiently. And it was so difficult. Even I remember hiring my first trainer, and at first I would kind of shadow them and see how they would train people. And I was like, oh my God, that's not how you touch someone. That's not how you talk to them. And I was so big on perfection. And then I was getting really pissed off because I was going through a lot of trainers and people that work for me, even doing customer service. And I had very high expectations of them because I wanted them to do things the way I did. And then a friend who had $1 billion training studio, and he gave me the best advice. He goes, listen, AJ, would you rather do everything or have it 80% done? And I'm like, whoa, well, you're right. 80% should be good enough, because I thought they had to do it 100% like me, but it was 80%. Cool, then I could outsource this. So then I stopped stressing and stopped being such a control freak.
So what did you do to put those systems in place? Did you have, job description, training, metrics that you were measuring them on?
Yeah. The cool thing is that the community of personal trainers that would go online, we had a lot of different forums and groups, and we basically set up standard operating procedures and had email threads where we're sharing all of our strategies. That was when I joined my first mastermind, and I was blown away. I'm like, holy cow, maybe I was really good at sales, but someone else was good at hiring an admin. Someone was good at hiring trainers, putting out ads. So I was a part of this mastermind that's after work with Chris. And it was a group of trainers all around the world, and we would just share all our best stuff. So I was just downloading the SOPs, standard operating procedures, and I would just have my staff follow the processes.
That's awesome. That's super interesting. So you started you figured out the sales process yourself. You figured out how to put the trainer in place to handle the clients you brought in. How far did that scale you? Did you hit $1 million just adding more people, adding more salespeople to build that?
No, I didn't hit $1 million with the in-person training business. Even though I was at a place where I had staff and trainers and all these different moving pieces, living in New York, the rent is ridiculous. So once I was growing out of my facility, it was a point where I had a ton of overhead, right? Mm-hmm. So even though I was making multiple hundreds of thousands, multiple six figures, the profit margins were not super high. So then I really wanted to figure something out. And at the time, I was looking at purchasing a larger facility, like a big 10,000 square foot gym, And it was wow, a really big risk because the area I was looking at, the average rent was $20,000, $30,000 a month, So it was I was going to take on this rent and sign a lease for a year, 2 years, and it was $250,000 just to rent alone. Then you have the utilities and all that stuff. So then I knew probably for the next few years of my life, I had to put in tons of work, tons of effort, and I had to really hire more people, more money, more problems if I was going to go that route. And I remember I found this place and I had my attorney talk to their attorney. And I was about to sign a commercial lease. And at the time, I just remember that night I couldn't sleep. Something was off. And I was going to, have the meeting. And at the last minute, I decided to cancel. Something my intuition told me that was a bad idea. Don't do it, because I'm very extreme. At the time, I was a big workaholic. Even though I reduced my hours in training, all I thought about was growing the business, and it was ruining my relationships, ruining my health. And I kind of felt like if I would have signed that lease, I would have signed it for working 10 times harder, 10 times longer. So I decided to opt out of that. And I said, there's got to be a better way. And then at the time, this was 2009, 2010, there were more people that started selling online programs, online training, online nutrition. So I said, you know what? Instead of risking all this time and money opening up a big ass gym, how about if I start doing online personal training? Because learning direct response marketing, generating leads through the internet, and learning sales through the phone, I said, if I take these skills and instead of the fulfillment of training sessions and manpower, which is not that lucrative, what if I sell information? Then a light bulb went off in my head. So then I decided to really dive deep into internet marketing, and I hired a lot of courses, and I said, how can I take the skills that I've developed, the nutrition, the exercise, and the mindset, and develop an online platform, and I could sell that, which is really low overhead, is a very high profit. So then I started, my business at the time was Life Fuel Fitness, and I developed Life Fuel Fitness online training. And that's when I started to put more of my effort into online personal training, and that's when everything changed.
Okay, awesome. And so what was that like? Was it still the same process? Like you would get the leads from the same source, you do the phone sales, but you would just be selling like the online package instead?
Yes, exactly. It was just, learning a level of certainty, right? The level of certainty that I'm the authority, I'm the expert. And even through SEO, there were certain keywords. I live in Long Island, New York. So it was like Great Neck personal trainer, Lake Success personal trainer. People were coming locally because I had those keywords down packed. And then over the phone, instead of training them locally, I would convince them that the online program was the best solution. So very quickly, I had to learn the power of sales and persuasion, because this person was expecting to see me. They're never going to see me, never going to meet me. They had to exchange money over the phone and buy a product that they'll never tangibly touch.
Yeah.
So that's when I learned the power of certainty. And once you understand sales, you could sell someone anything. Obviously, I wasn't trying to scam them, but I was really shifting their mindset. They got on the phone expecting to come to a gym and for me to physically touch them and train them, but they were buying a package where they'll never meet me ever in person. So that's when I learned, wow, this is so powerful. If I start selling information, I don't have an overhead. I don't have to worry about the stress of, trainers not showing up and all this other crap that I had to go through. And remember, once I sold my first online package, it was $1,000 package. I sold it over the phone to someone who wanted to come to the gym. That was when my whole life changed. I was like, holy cow, I no longer have to trade hours for dollars. I could sell information.
Awesome. So was that the pricing you rolled out was $1,000 for one of these 3 to 6 month packages?
Yeah. I developed a 6-month online transformation program, and I sold the first one for $1,000.
Awesome. And then, so how did you deliver this? Did you just create a bunch of videos and drip it out, or what was the strategy?
Yeah. So essentially, for that first client, I built it as I went.
Yeah.
30 weeks. So I was like, cool, get you set up in my 6-month transformation program. And essentially, it was every week making a video and then having an email autoresponder, and just all right, I had a membership portal that I just drip fed the content. It wasn't really drip fed because it wasn't even created. I was just 1 week ahead of him. So I said,
you just upload it.
Right, ready for you. You go to week number 1. I would go and do week number 2, and then I was just 1 week ahead of this initial client. However, as I was building it out, I was now automating it, setting up email autoresponders and text message reminders so that now someone went in, it was already built out for them. So then I was like, holy cow, this is the game changer, that I now have an online leverage system that I build out one time and I get to use it over and over and over again.
Very cool. So you're selling the same package, basically the same price, but you just reduce all the hassle of the training that you had to put in place for people or for your employees, the tracking them, the overhead, the rent, that kind of stuff. So how did you take that to over $1 million? Did you just scale that? Did you hire more salespeople and just really focus on the lead gen side?
Yeah, because I still had the training business, but I realized that if I focus on the online business, it's pretty much all profit, because the money was just for the lead generation more than anything. And if I was able to sell the packages, I could do that initially myself because I didn't have to be in the gym all day long training clients. In a 30 to 45 minute call, I could sell $1,000 package. And then I had certain people, because this was more like leverage, where it just worked through a membership portal, email autoresponder. And then there were apps I was using to track people on a daily basis. So then I decided, what? The big missing link from in-person to online is a tracking element, because to hold people accountable without seeing them, that's very difficult, especially with fitness. So then I started to invest my money at the time to develop an app that I could use that people could connect with me. And it was called Lean Buddy. So once I developed the app for my online business, that was the game changer, because the app allowed people to take photos of their food, interact on a daily basis, and it allowed me to take on hundreds of clients without having to physically be there. So then I developed two packages. So people that just wanted to use the automated system in the app, it was $1,000 for 6 months. And people that wanted to work with me, I did once a month coaching call. And for the same 6 months program, I charged $5,000 for the one-on-one with me. So then I started selling the $1,000 program and the $5,000 program. And I just went crazy with paid traffic. And I hired a salesperson, and we were both selling 1K and 5K programs. And then from there, my income really started going up.
Very cool. And so the salesperson, like this is, I know I like stress hiring salespeople at first. So you learn how to sell yourself, but did you hire someone locally? How did you make sure that they could like sell what you're trying to sell?
Yeah. So I basically had a client who was very passionate about me. She knew the program and really understood more so the clientele that was going to buy the program. So she was looking for some side money. And I said, hey, you know what? I got a few sales recordings. Listen to them. I'm going to send you a script and we're going to role play. We're going to have a weekly call and then I'll just send you leads. At the time, there were not a lot of people doing online fitness marketing. So it was crazy easy to get leads. It was like $1 a phone number. All day long, I was just getting leads. I couldn't take them on, so I was sending it to her. So I really didn't care if she screwed up 20, 30 sales calls. It was like 20, 30 bucks. So if she sold a $1,000 program, it would make up for like weeks and weeks of missed sales calls. Yeah. I was just sending her all these leads and she was getting this. We're using Woofu at the time, getting all these Woofu notifications, because it wasn't as competitive back then. And then very quickly, she got the hang of it and started closing sales consistently.
Very cool. Awesome. So yeah, I think that's a really cool story. I mean, we can go further now. So you set up Online Super Coach, which now you're teaching other people to do what you did. Again, you hit $1.2 million, 90% profit. So I'm super curious to see how you set it up, and especially around like the profitability side, how you were able to, eliminate, delegate, and automate a lot of this work.
Yeah, absolutely. So the years of doing personal training and then closing down my in-person business, going online, I realized a big distinction that if you're in a hot market that is not very competitive, that is curing a big need, you could scale up super quickly, So it took me so long to finally break 7 figures with my fitness business. A lot of trial and error, a lot of headaches, a lot of failure. But essentially, I was one of the few guys in the fitness industry that was teaching people how to build an online fitness business. So basically, around 2013, I say, I don't want to make a mistake and offer any type of one-on-one coaching. I want to develop a course and just sell the course. So I learned the power of webinars. At the time, I started experimenting with a weekly webinar, and I was just doing it every single week. First webinar I did, no one showed up. It was horrible, it was embarrassing, but I said, same thing of learning direct response marketing. I have to do this over and over until I finally get it. And upon doing webinar after webinar, a few people showed up and then they left, and then eventually someone bought. And I was like, okay, now I'm on to something. And I did more and more webinars. And then about 6 months into it, I was able to do this one webinar. I don't know what it was. It was live at the time, but I was in such a good state. I was so passionate. You ever have those times when you talk and the right words come out? You're in this amazing flow state, and things were just flowing so perfectly. And a ton of people bought off that webinar. So I was like, this is the webinar. This is it. So I basically took that one webinar and I automated it, right? I used, I think it was Stealth Seminar at the time, and I put a Facebook ad on it. And because it was such a big need in the marketplace and there was zero competition, I was like one of the only guys teaching online personal training, and I had Facebook ads going to it like crazy. So that scaled very quickly because that webinar just started converting like a mofo. In fact, I still run that webinar. That's how effective it is. It's been 4 years now, and it's still pulling strong. So that webinar sells a $5,000 program. So I have different price points, but they sell from $5,000 to $6,000, depending on if they get it at the webinar or if they get it through a sales call, what have you. So then I quickly realized that if I just run cold traffic to the webinar, selling this $5,000 course, it's a very high profit business model because the course is pretty automated. So there's not a lot of manpower to fulfill it. And that's how I built this business where it's 90% profitability, because I would run the traffic, right? And then I learned how to, because the webinar converted. So I took the principles of the webinar and then I taught the same exact process in person. I started doing seminars. So if there's one thing about me, I know how to get costs really low. So I just said, I'm going to put all my effort on webinars, selling this course, selling it in person, using organic traffic. I found a location that I could do free seminars at. So it didn't cost me anything. I would sell a ticket to get people in the seats. I would do a strong pitch. And at that seminar, I was selling 20 to 30 courses live in person. And because the back end is very leveraged, it was a very high profit business model. So then I struck upon a gold mine, essentially.
That's brilliant. So you dripped it out the same way through like a membership site, and then you would just send them like a video once a week, and then you would have like some check-in with them again?
Yes. Yeah. Essentially, I ran it the same exact way that I did in my online fitness business: a membership site, email autoresponder, a Facebook group, and then a weekly call. And then since then, I started to basically focus more on the delivery and the service. I was selling so much, and at the point, like I felt like I wasn't giving enough customer service. So then I hired staff to help out, admins. I hired individual one-on-one coaches. And now the back end is really dialed in, where people get great results. They have one-on-one coaching support. They have admins who help them with anything they need technology-wise. I have people that do the done-for-you processes, all that good stuff. So, at first I had to learn how to sell it. And then once I was able to make it very profitable, I put money to make sure it was a phenomenal product and it got results and referrals.
That's brilliant. That's awesome. We went through that pretty quickly, but I think the stuff that you did in the business before that, where you're doing online training, you explain a lot of these like profitability things. And I think it's just like how you think about it. Like we talked about before, like you could have done this where you're working with people one-on-one, or you're even working with people in a group, but you decided, I found this model where I can drip it out and automate everything, and then just hire the team to support that.
Yeah. It's one of the hardest things to do, to find a hungry market that is underserved. And you create something that's leveraged. And I wouldn't say I got lucky, because I failed a lot. I worked really hard to find this market in the fitness industry and also in the online coaching space. But I find if you create kind of like a back end leveraged dream come true experience, and you put all of your effort on testing it and tweaking it, because of course the original product that I sold wasn't the greatest, but over years I focused on the back end. How can I make the customer service great? How can I make sure that every part of the process is running super smooth? Kind of like the McDonald's experience. You get a Big Mac in China or in New York, it's the same Big Mac, because they got great systems and they work on great customer service. So I really focused on the back end, making it beautiful, making it a great dream come true experience. And that way I could put people into it. And I had so much pride selling the product.
Okay. Did you have, like, real quick, because we don't have a lot of time left, but what were a couple of those things that you did that you think made you successful at supporting the customer service side?
Well, the biggest thing was gathering data. And of course, I implemented a lot of surveys along the process. I would see at what point people got overwhelmed and at what point, let's say, people were complaining. And then I started to do like drip feed and develop checklists. And like I said, I brought on one-on-one coaches and really looking at the surveys where I was dropping the ball. Most times people were overwhelmed. Sometimes, let's say, if you're an action taker, you implement very, very quickly. But then you'll realize the people that, let's say, get your product or service, they don't take action like you. So you got to slow down the process, create checklists, drip feed, bring about coaches, customer service, So it was like me to put myself in my client's point of view. And a great quote from Robert Collier, one of the greatest copywriters. He says, you want to enter the conversations in your customers' minds, right? Understanding their fears, frustrations, dreams, and desires, but also by serving them and gathering data, you can improve the program so quickly.
Okay, awesome. And then one clarification, like, what do you mean with the drip feeds?
So in selling online information products, there's two schools of thought. One is to allow them to access all the information, kind of like a smorgasbord. You go in, whatever you want to do. And those are good for the action takers. But as you know, the people that are the crazy action takers, they're like the 10% of all of the population. 90% of people, they get overwhelmed and they have, a slower way of consuming the content. So I created it where it was like a drip feed. Like you have to do this one step and then check the homework and then you get the next step, That way they weren't overwhelmed. They're doing one thing at a time. And also, like I said, the 10% who are the action takers are super focused. Nowadays, we have so many things competing for our attention: smartphones, social media, the internet, different apps and softwares. So the slower you drip out the content, the more you make it a step-by-step process, and understand that people have so many other obligations. Even though they'll invest in your program, they're also investing in other programs. They're part of other things. And I'm sure you understand it when you're getting someone to use lead quizzes. They'll get all these different softwares, all these different systems, and they're so overwhelmed. So you have to kind of put yourself in the customer's mind, and also in this day and age where focus is very dim.
Yeah, 100%. Great advice. All right, so let's wrap up here, AJ. Real quick, like what's the one thing that you think had the biggest impact on your growth?
The one thing that had the biggest impact on my growth was definitely investing in coaches, mentors, and masterminds. We were both in Joe Paul's 25K group, something of that magnitude. That was a huge game changer because one, you have the information of people who are a lot more successful than you, a lot smarter than you, and you get to have the shortcut. The second thing is the peer group. You're the average of the closest people in your life. So when you're in a mastermind where you're being coached by someone who's making 10 times more money than you, it changes your perspective, right? Us being in that group, we saw people that are making 10 million, 100 million, even billionaires, and you realize they're no smarter than you. They're just regular people, right? Men and women who are just the same. They're not that much more talented. So that whole perspective change allows you to realize you could do it too.
That's huge. Awesome. And then last question, like if you could go back in time and start over, what would you tell yourself?
I would tell myself to trust the process. I worried myself so many times. I thought I was going to lose all my money and move back into my mom's basement. Man, there was even a time where a few years into my business when the economy crashed, this is very embarrassing to say, but I applied for food stamps. I filled out the application and I was on the line for the food stamp line. And I looked around and I saw homeless people and people in really tough situations. I'm like, damn, I'm a guy in my early 20s, well-educated, I have energy, and I'm like on this line. This is horrible. What the hell am I doing here? I had an awakening moment because I worried so much. And maybe I wasn't going to be at a point where I needed food stamps, but where my business was going, I feared so many things. So I had a lot of fear, a lot of worry at the time. I wanted to quit so many times. I didn't think I was going to make it. But if I could go back in time, I would say, you know what? Trust the process. Everything's going to work out.
Yeah, very cool. Awesome. Well, AJ, this has been jam-packed. I know I took like 5 pages of notes or something. So I really appreciate you being on with us. Where can people go to learn more about you?
Yeah, sure thing. So I have my main website, onlinesupercoach.com. You can learn about my programs. I got a lot of free webinars on there, case studies of a lot of people that I've helped. But if you're in a place where you're just starting out with your online business, you want to scale your online business and learn the things that I've learned in my 12 years of experience, if you go to this URL, onlinesupercoach.com/start. I essentially teach everything that I did to create my dream online business where it's based on freedom, flow, fulfillment, and it runs at 90% profitability. So within 5 days, I'll teach you the key components that made my business the way it is today.
Amazing. Awesome. AJ, man, I'm so grateful you came on. I think it's going to be so valuable for everyone listening. So thank you so much.
I appreciate you, Jeremy. You're a great friend. Love having you in my life, and you add a lot of value to me. So I'm more than happy to add value to your audience.
Awesome. Thanks so much, man.
Anytime.
Thanks again for listening to our show this week. If you want to find out more about AJ Mihrzad and the lessons he shared today, or read our show notes, visit leadquizzes.com/5. If you'd like to start generating more leads for your business and get a free trial to Lead Quizzes, go to leadquizzes.com/podcast. Next week, I'll be interviewing Kevin Gianni, a health blogger who launched a multi-million-dollar skincare line that's on an 8-figure run rate. Please subscribe to our show so you don't miss this next episode. I'm Jeremy Ellens, and you've been listening to Journey to 7 Figures.